Here I am in Seward, Alaska. This is the end of the highway, or the beginning of the highway, depending on how you look at it. But it is a beautiful, not quite rainy day right now, which is wild. We're down here for the weekend just to have a good fun time. But I'm gonna try to do my second ever one of these things where I hide a sketch and see if somebody can find me before I finish it. And if that's the case, then it's theirs. But I'm kind of playing with fire here, or rain, I suppose, because Seward is not known as the most dry place on earth. So I'm gonna see if I can get the sketch done before the rain hits. But the hardest part right now is just gonna be picking a direction, because it is like 360 degrees of gorgeous down here. Trying out salt water for the first time. Apparently you can paint with it. Never tried. So the interesting situation. Okay, got a funny setup all going. I made a big mistake. The tide is definitely coming in. So we're gonna race against weather and tide and my fingers, because it is shockingly cold right now. So let's see how all this goes. Fortunately, that is an absolutely gorgeous view. So I am really excited to go sketch this, but we'll see if anybody joins me. Pretty spot. Okay, let's give this a go. So I'm gonna be sketching this today, and yeah, if anybody finds me before I finish, then it's theirs. So here we go. And we are live. So I'm gonna start with a little bit of a outline here. I am in a very, very, very chilly spot right at the end of the road here in Alaska, also known as Seward, Alaska. And I'm gonna try to paint this gorgeous kind of like little sort of misty view here and see if I can capture it before the rain hits me. Also, I'm right next to the water and the tide is definitely coming up, so we'll see how that all goes as well. But we'll also see if anybody finds me. Okay, so this is kind of what I'm aiming for. You got this amazing little kind of spit of land out there by Miller's Landing, and I really, really, really want to capture that that kind of watercolory mist effect almost. It's just gorgeous. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of an outline in here. Put some of these rocks kind of coming down as well. A little bit of that ocean that may or may not swallow me up shortly. And then looks like we got a little bit of rocks over here. But I usually just start out with a very, very, very light outline because it is just enough of a coloring book to get me going. Now I'm gonna way foreshorten here just because I can see all of this really cool stuff going on there, and this is sort of how my eyes see. When it comes to painting, I think it is kind of important to paint how it feels, not always how it looks. Because I feel like they're very different. You know, if you want a photograph, just take a photograph. But if you want a painting, like you're looking for something kind of different. So you got all these nice trees, kind of cruising up like that. Got one of these mountains kind of coming down. And once again, this is very, very, very loose, very light, just because I'm trying to get just the general shape. I'm not trying to do anything too crazy, just the general shape. Right over here, we got another little one of these mountains that almost disappears into the clouds. They all kind of move down like this. And then, of course, you got the kind of Miller's Landing trees. And way out there, you just got these tiniest little itty bitty bitty houses. Oh, that is the sound of the tide getting real close to my feet. Whew! If I needed encouragement to paint fast, I have it. Oh man, I thought that'd take hours to get this high. It's maybe cut short. We're about to find out. Okay, we have some people in Vermont looking. Should only take you fastest flight. You could probably get here in 12 hours. They'll probably be gone by then though. So I'm using salt water today because I forgot my water bottle. So I'm gonna see how that goes. I've never painted with salt water before, but it could be interesting, you know? So far, it is wet, and that is kind of what you're looking for in, water. I'm gonna start with these mountains, and I'm just gonna add a touch of this little bit of blue, just because I kind of want to get them rolling right now. I don't want too much pure white, even though there are lots and lots of clouds. It's more dynamic than that. You can kind of still see all the shades. That's why I'm gonna add a bunch of this. Maybe a little bit of light up here as well. There we go. I'm really just putting that in there just so it dries. That's kind of the point. Next, I'm going to fill in this ocean, and it is gorgeous and kind of got this nice gray, almost frothiness going on. It looks like it's one color, but actually I think you can make it with a few. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with some blue, and then I'm actually going to add brown right on top of it. And that should make kind of this nice gray. Oftentimes people think, gray is just a color out of a tube. Gray is kind of what you get when you mix a bunch of colors. Well, I guess brown is what you get when you mix a bunch of colors, but you ever see things that are kind of gray or dirt or dust, and it's like, why is it always kind of that same color? It's a lot of times because when you mix a ton of different pigments, you do often end up with brown or gray. If you zoomed in, you'd see all these different things. Okay, and a little bit. I don't know if you can pick this up at all, but I'm actually seeing some really interesting kind of pigmentation in my painting. I think that's probably what happens when you use salt water. So I'm very curious to see how the rest of this turns out. Okay, just adding a little bit of color right here, just along. It is beautiful today, even though I assume I'm about to get either rained on or swept away by this tide. A little bit of gray, just letting it work down. Oh, this is so cool. Yeah, it's like almost sandy looking right there. Which might be because I might have sand in here. No, I think I'm good. All right, must just be the salt water. All right, so we have a little bit there, a little bit here, and I kind of bounce around to give it a chance to dry. I'm in a very humid place, so we'll see how much actual drying happens, but while this is drying and this is drying, I'll now work on the sky. Just to kind of move it forward. Now the sky I'm going to use just a touch indigo because you kind of look up there, it's a little bit darker than the snow on the mountains. And actually creates this really interesting effect where you can kind of see these mountains really well because of it. So we're doing just a little bit of indigo right up here. Well, that's a lot of indigo. Okay, well, here it goes, I guess. I'm doing a lot of indigo right up here. And, whoa, that is not what I meant to do. Oh, cold hands, letting me down. Okay, it's our secret. No one knows that there's not a giant cleft in that mountain. I'm just gonna kind of pull this up. Okay, that is way darker than I planned. Let's see if I can fix any of that. And if not, that's okay. Watercolor is all about kind of learning to accept. So here we go. A little bit of that there. A little bit of this here. Right over to the edge. And let's see what I can do to clean this up. The beauty of watercolor is it kind of constantly gives you challenges, especially when you paint straight up and down. This might be a mistake as well. It kind of forces you to really kind of think about what you're doing and how to do it. I feel like there's less frustrating, much easier mediums, but I think part of the reason I always come back to watercolor is it's like, how on earth do you even pull this off? Every single painting is a little scary, in a good way. Some people like skydiving to get their thrills, but yeah, the puzzle of paint and paper, that's enough for me. Also, probably a much safer thing. I don't know how many people die from skydiving every year, but I assume it's a lot higher than the amount of people who die from watercolor. Probably not zero though, but yeah, probably still less. Okay, a little bit there. Gonna give that a go, see what happens. And I don't know, yeah, everything's still pretty wet, so this will be an interesting painting. We'll see how this goes. We got tide on one side, rain on the other, salt water in the pan. Really just kind of testing all the boundaries all at once. These rocks over here will be interesting as well. I didn't really, I guess if I wanted to, I could always grab a little bit of a pen line, just kind of jot some in for some general outline. The kind of jumbled rocks are kind of tough because it's, they're all up against each other, but if you create it well, they usually work pretty well together. And this tin, so I've got a little trail tile tin here, and I've taped a sheet of paper to it, and then I have magnets on the back. I took a bunch of old film parts and actually constructed some weird little tripod-y bit. But a lot of times when I'm not filming, I just use the tin. It's a great little, basically a great little, what are they called? Easel? Palette? We created these because we wanted something that was just really, really simple to use and didn't have everything combined, because for some reason as an artist, the idea of like ruining a page, or, you know, like what if I mess up one page on a sketchbook that's full of other good paintings, can actually keep me from painting. So we wanted something that was almost like a deconstructed sketchbook. Just adding in some of the kind of the lighter colors here, and I'll come back in once that's dry and add some of those darker colors on the other side. There we go. Something kind of like that. It does all come together usually at the very end. I tell myself, because I don't know if this is going to work out. Okay, I'm pulling a little bit of this up here. This sky has kind of gotten away from me, but I don't mind. I think I'm actually going to kind of pull it in. Maybe I'll even add a bit more sky later. See how that all works out. There we go. Okay. Well, it's a chilly one here, but so far things are moving quickly. This right here is going to be interesting. Maybe you can't see it, but like way, way, way down here, there's like a little bit of mist. Or maybe it's not mist, maybe it's cloud or fog. I'm not sure, but it's kind of attached itself to these mountains, which is really beautiful and interesting. But I'm going to add some of that right now just to kind of give the mountain a little bit of some dynamicness. Basically, it's a little bit of fog right here. I'm just going to stick it in right there. And then I'll add just a touch of, oh, what color's behind there? Kind of a green-blue. Here's a blue, here's a green. Something like that. And when I add this, it's going to kind of slowly scoot its way in here, but not all the way. So I'm just going to kind of leave that to its own devices. Something like that. There we go. And by doing that now, this won't be totally filled in, and it'll kind of get that nice foggy, interesting effect, at least I hope. Kind of let that sit there and then kind of dry out a bit. Okay. These little bits too are kind of interesting because you do get, like, this is actually a lot lighter as well. So kind of working out the puzzle of what I'm looking at. Add a little bit down here, just to let Miller's Landing kind of, I'll come back into something way darker here in a second. Same up here almost as well. Just a touch. Beautiful. Now over here is kind of interesting as well. It looks like the fog or mist or cloud or whatever water vapor ghosts, who knows what it is. Those I don't see quite as much, but I am going to add a few here because they were there. Maybe they'll come back. That's the beauty of painting, is it's not like a photograph. I don't have to wait. I saw of water that is slowly creeping up toward my feet. Oh boy. I should have consulted the tide charts, not just the weather. So get a little bit there. I'm just going to add just a touch of some blue. And then I'll come back in here with some of my other colors just to get those in there. We've got a little bit of blue, a little bit of green, kind of the same colors, but we're just adding a few in here right here just to kind of create that. And with watercolor, it's funny because you're not just painting what is there. You kind of, with like the white space, you got to paint what's not or what's not going to be. Oh my gosh, this tide is making leaps and bounds right here. What, it's only been like 13 minutes. That's wild. Also, beauty of watercolor. You get to sit and you get to experience a landscape change around you. It's just unfortunate when that change around you might involve some wet feet. Okay, so this is slowly coming together. The wetness is always what gives me a little bit of a throw. Just gonna do a little bit of the test. Looks like that is getting drier, so maybe I'm gonna try some of these rocks. I often think about it like a Goldilocks situation. You know, you got your too hot, too cold, just right. So you kind of add your 3 layers and you're good to go. So we've got our kind of light layer. Here's our medium layer. And this is just going to add a little bit of this right here. Some of these rocks. And this kind of creates a little bit of foreground. And then we're going to add something darker later on. And we should be good. Also, if you're strapped for time, just add this layer and call it good. 2 is plenty. But I feel like that 3rd layer is always what kind of brings it to life. Okay, a little bit here, a little bit there. Beautiful. Well, not yet, but it'll get there, I think. There we go. So we've got a little bit here, a little bit there. I might even try to add a touch of this last little tiny bit. Right here, we've got some kind of a little bit of shore. And I'm gonna add that right in right now before I add all of the rest. These little bits of warmth and kind of a cool landscape are so key. They're subtle. Oh, some shaky hands because it's cold. They're subtle, they're thin, but they make a huge difference in the long run. Okay, T-minus like 3 feet on this water now. Oh, that was a big one. T-minus 2 feet on this water. Adding just a little bit right there can make a huge difference. We got this right there. Just feeling up here, see how wet it is. It's getting dry too. So now let's add a little bit of these mountains right up here. Adding a little bit of kind of the spur of this mountain, almost these little spines. And they kind of come down as well. It's hard because you need to get like the perfect amount of water on your brush. Too much is going to flood everything, too little, and you're not going to get anything. And then we're almost going to just scrape something kind of like that down. There we go, lovely. I'm also going to use this to kind of carve out this little section right here. Something just like that. Kind of pulling and pushing. This landscape is basically made out of watercolor. It flows, there's hard edges, there's soft edges. It's so hard to capture it all, but the feel of Seward is just so, I mean, it just feels like you're living in a painting. And I mean, not just a watercolor painting because it's super wet here, but also like just the way this landscape seems to kind of move around itself. Just reminds me so much of watercolor. A little bit right there, a little bit up here. Not the most accurate thing on these mountains. I would not use this as like a topo map, but I think that kind of gets the gist, and that's what I'm going for. Of course, then I have a little bit up here as well. I got a little bit of these trees just kind of outlining this mountain. And they kind of go up here, move down a little bit. Something just like that, just like the little tiniest little pieces of trees, just enough to kind of outline it all. There we go. Like I said, this usually kind of comes right to life right at the end. It's quick, it's fast, but you kind of have to have some faith and patience. A little bit right in here as well. And here comes the tide. Okay, we are now 1 foot away. Okay, using a bit of the thumb brush. There we go. Okay, so we got a lot of this moving forward. This is looking lovely. But first we got these trees to kind of fill in. This is going to be one of the bigger ones. So I'm going to add a little bit of everything all together. A little bit here, a little bit there. And I'm just going to start filling in these trees, but I'll come back with something darker in one moment. A little bit up top, a little bit up top. I've put it out online that if anybody does find me, they do get to keep this. But I think I'm just off the beaten path. In this case, I'm probably 20 feet off the path. But I also seem to choose really chilly days to go paint, so that might be my problem. A little bit here, a little bit there. We added some of those kind of darker clouds earlier, and that's going to all come into play right here. A little bit of our trees. Really sinking in kind of that indigo. The closer something is to you, the darker and more contrasting it'll be in this kind of weather. So we got a little bit here and a little bit there. And then if I add in also a happy birthday to Kuyap Joyson. Not sure if I'm saying that right. Always fun to paint on somebody's birthday. A little bit here. Coming back in here just a touch. Okay, that's kind of some foggy looking trees. Not too bad, it's getting there. It is getting there. I'm gonna come back in just with a little bit more water just to kind of even that out. And then we're gonna add in these last little bits here in just a moment. And first, we gotta finish our rocks. Relatively quick sketch, all things considered. Sort of has to be because this tide is gonna get me. It's real quiet too, it's real sneaky. It'll just kind of be like, just lapping, feet away, and then all of a sudden you get one of these waves just coming in at you. It's like a Labrador just like subtly waiting for that one scrap on the table. It's got a plan, it knows what it's doing. Lulls you into a false sense of security. A little bit down here, and then just a touch of some water to pull up those colors. Gives you kind of this back break water. And then, so we had our light, our medium, and now here comes our dark. We're gonna add probably a bit of purple, a bit of blue, a bit of indigo, all together. It's gonna be darker than some of the other stuff, but that's the Papa Bear or Mama Bear, whatever it is. This is the third of those layers. Third time, it's a charm, right? A little bit in here. Ooh, okay, half a foot on that water. Lapping up next to my feet. Adding just a little bit to here. And there we go. I'm putting real dark lines because I'm going to come in there some water and kind of fill them in. Beautiful, okay. There comes the water, all right. Maybe like 1 inch. Nope, that's worth lifting my feet for. Maybe you can see, maybe you can't. Painting in against the tide at this point, and it is coming. Oh, you can come on down. Okay, my mom and Kip are heading up for a steamer. Going up for Res Art. It's a lovely little cafe here in Seward. It is like the perfect spot to go on kind of a cold, blustery day. That is exactly where I'm heading, directly after this little sketch here. There we go. So we got a little Roxy. It kind of just takes a few layers, but they kind of build and they kind of add up. But then as soon as you get them, there you go. Great little rocks, just like that. Now, I still have this layer to fill in. This is kind of the big in right down here. Also, a hard one to do with very cold hands, but I think I'm almost ready. I usually like it to be as dry as possible, but if it flows up, that actually could work just as well as, kind of a cool look. So we're gonna try some of that here right now. We're really gonna kind of dig into that purple and that blue. A little bit of indigo as well. And I'm gonna try to, Miller's Landing's right out there. So we're just doing a little bit of these trees. The ones especially right here in the back. So they're the darkest. Oh, here goes the flow. That's all right. I'm just gonna go with it. And I have two tiny little houses that I'm gonna try not to paint in right there. If I mess up, I can always come back in with a bit of white colored pencil or something like that. It's totally fine. So I'm really just adding in just a touch. There's my little houses. Do they look like nothing? Yes, they do, but that's okay. And then a little bit of these trees right here. Kind of breaking stuff up into, you know, the foreground versus medium and background. These little subtle shifts really make all the difference. But the cool thing with watercolor is it just kind of forces you to look. It's longer than I'd ever spend looking at any landscape for a photograph. And this is just a quick sketch. So I just love the way that it all comes together. Adding some good trees in. Now here, just a little bit more of that nice water kind of doing my work for me. Now if I want, I could add to the tiniest, thinnest little line to this kind of little shoreline road. I might even just put a tiny line. Oh my gosh, that is sun. What on earth? In Seward? What am I even looking at? Wow, crazy. Okay, perfect little patch of sunlight. Unbelievable. What I love about Seward so much too is, you know, there are some places that get 350 days of sun a year and you're disappointed if there's rain. In Seward, you get mostly rain. If there's sun, it's like a holiday. It's great. It's all about expectations, I guess. And now, just like that, I think we're almost there. Unless I should add a seal or something in here, because there are a bunch of seals and sea lions that just kind of are all over the place. Lots of good birds going on too. I think I should probably add a bird and probably add maybe a little seal. We'll add one of each of those. Still maybe a minute for somebody to find me, but this might be one that ends up online as a giveaway as well. If nobody finds me by the time I finish, then it goes out to the general public. A little bit of a bird right here. Hands are pretty cold, so I'm just doing tiny little silhouettes. Something like that. Not much, but it's enough, you know? And then let's do a little seal as well. Talk about easy things to sketch. Seals or sea otters, I mean, they're just like here's the feet and here's the head. Let's see, a little bit of the feet. Another foot. And then I'll put a little tiny head. Woo! But first, my feet are gonna get wet from the tide. Come right in, there we go. And that's what a sea otter looks like. There we go. That's not bad. As far as using seawater, like I said, I've never tried that before. I'll definitely rinse out this brush really good afterwards, but it worked pretty well. And the paint held up, although I do see some really interesting little textures that are going on in some of it. I'll keep you posted on how the rest of it goes. And I think I'm actually gonna continue making some paintings, probably in a nice cafe with like a hot chocolate or something, because this is just so stormy and gorgeous. I love little sketches like this because they make me want to just like come back and make a bigger version, which is often what I'll do. I'll make a little tiny 3x3 and then I'll blow that up into an 18x18 and really just use all of that detail. But this kind of gets my initial feel and almost captures the heart of a place. And just like that, close, not terrible. I definitely use a lot more color, but I feel like a photo just doesn't capture just how like colorful this place is. Even in the rain, I mean, there are so many colors in these grays. But it's kind of interesting to paint with the elements. I've never painted with like salt water before, but it's kind of fun to like paint a body of water with the thing itself. I'm definitely also kind of immersed in it right now as well, so maybe that's the ocean sign of saying that it liked it, or it's the ocean telling me that it found me and I should give it the painting. But I think this one gets to go out online. But if you have any thoughts of where the next one should be made, or any ways I can kind of tweak or improve, or maybe where I should go to actually be found, I would love to hear it. For me though, it's the real prize is just making a sketch, because Not sure if I would have. Whoa! It's such a... Ooh, boy. Not sure if I would have on such a... or not sure if I would have stayed here without the excuse of making this. Oh my God, where's this coming from? It was like totally still like minutes ago. All right, that's my sign. I'm out before I get too wet, and can't wait to catch you next time.